Jake, welcome on in. Thank you so much for joining me, dude. How pumped are you that it is opening week and we can finally talk about real baseball in a couple of days?
You can smell it in the air. The vibe is different. Spring has sprung. The flowers are blooming. There's pollen. That's how I know. I got bad pollen allergies. So when you feel the pollen in your sinuses, opening day is right around the corner.
You know it's around the corner. That's right. So thank you for joining me. Let's talk some NL Central. So I want to start with some storylines in the NL Central. And so I want to ask you a few. So let's start with your first one. What would be the first storyline, in your opinion, in the NL Central this year?
Christian Yelich. I think he is the player that will most kind of dictate how this division turns out. He was one of the best 5 players on planet Earth in 2018 when he won the MVP, in 2019 when he finished second to Cody Bellinger. Then in 2020, he was meh. In 2021, he really took a step back, was slightly below average at the plate. And whether he comes out and is the 2019 version of himself or is the 2021 version of himself will dictate how the Brewers go, how the Brewers offense goes, and how the Brewers offense goes is going to dictate how the entire division pans out, because we know their pitching can really throw the ball. So Yelich is the key to the entire division for me. He had a significantly higher ground ball rate last year than he did at any other year in his career. He was 12th in baseball by ground ball percentage. And for a guy who hit 44 home runs in 2019, that's a big problem, right?
So I did my prediction for who would be the top 5 left fielders in the game this year, and I actually put Christian Yelich in there. So I think he has a little bit of a bounce back. I don't know where you feel there. I feel like a lot of people have lumped him and Cody Bellinger into the same category. Great in 2019, really not at all that great since. But I feel better about Christian Yelich returning to at least a little bit of form this year than I do Cody Bellinger. Is that far-fetched to say?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference between the two over the last few years is Yelich hasn't bottomed out. Like, the worst version of Yelich was a slightly below league average player, where the worst version of Bellinger is it's unplayable, right? And I think because of that, Yelich I could see Yelich being like a 3-win player, but I don't really see him being an MVP candidate ever again. Yeah. Whereas for Bellinger, he could be the best hitter in the National League, or he could be in AAA by June, and there's just a lot more volatility there. But I think I can't envision Yelich being horrible. Right now, he had back injuries at the beginning of last season. He's since said that he was healthy in the second half, which is honestly more concerning. It would prefer if he was hurt, because it would kind of explain what's going on. Yeah. The most important thing is that he is aware of the issue. He understands the issue is that he's not getting the ball in the air to the same extent. He's still hitting the ball just as hard. He's just not lifting it. And that's his game, right? He gets so low in his legs, and he's able to get loft behind the ball. And once he starts doing that again, I think he'll be able to regain some of his form.
Maybe he just needs to do the Juan Soto treatment and just enter the home run derby so he can find his home run swing again. All right, let's another storyline. What can you hit me with here?
Cardinals goodbye tour, man. It is Pujols is obviously back in St. Louis, but I think Pujols' return has overshadowed that this is Molina's last run. He has meant so much to that franchise over the last almost 2 decades, and announced before the season last year that 2022 was going to be it for him. So with him and Wainwright and Pujols all being there in St. Louis, either above 40 or just below 40 in Molina's case, it's a pretty incredible thing. I'm interested whether it's going to be a heroic goodbye for them, or whether it'll kind of be one of the more sad, lifeless goodbyes. Like Derek Jeter's last season. People don't remember this. The Yankees were not good. They didn't make the playoffs. That walk-off single against the Orioles was like the last week of September. They didn't make it, right? I would like to see these guys in the postseason one last time. But what's most interesting to me is that whether they get a good goodbye tour or a bad goodbye tour is really up to the other guys, because the pitching is a huge question mark for the Cardinals. So we'll see how those things pan out. It's not good if your best pitcher is 40, right? That's impressive for Adam Wainwright, but it's not a good sign for the Cardinals rotation.
I agree. And I want to ask you this, and it's kind of, it is along this topic, but more of an opinion-based thing. How do you feel about goodbye tours, farewell tours in general?
Love them. Love them. People should get the roses when they can still smell them. For me, I honestly don't think we do enough goodbye tours. I don't think we do enough goodbye tours. Like, to me, I think of Jay Bruce's end to his career with the Yankees last year, where he was terrible for New York for the first month or so, and after a decade plus, almost 15 years of big league time, he just said he was done in the post-game conference, and he was very anticlimactic. If you play in anywhere, any city for a significant period of time, you deserve a goodbye tour. I think more players deserve that. I think the bar is too high.
Wow.
It doesn't need to be just Hall of Famers.
Wow.
You know what? Okay, great example of this. Alex Avila last year in his last game with the Nats. Do you remember this? They gave him a standing ovation in his last game. He'd played 50 games with the Nats ever, and it was his last game and Zimmerman's last game, and they somehow got looped together. Loved it. Give everyone a standing O at the end of their careers.
Okay. I will disagree with
Ben.
you.
Okay, so Ben, think about it like
this.
Ben, I want you to think about it like this. If you got a standing O your last game in Lakeland, Florida, that you would still think about that. You would still think about that. And that would mean something to you, right? Yeah.
I probably did because I punched out 3 times as the away team, and everybody was standing cheering for me, yelling at me about how much I suck. But that's a different story. I would say the bar is too low because I'm talking about tours, like a tour, like what Mariano Rivera got and what Albert's going to get. And I think guys like a Tiger Woods should get an MJ. I think the bar for a tour is too low. Give them a standing O. I absolutely love that. Do that to anybody you want. Do it to Alex Avila if he played 50 games with your team. I'm totally fine with that. But a tour, that seems like a
You're
a
saying
big
like
to-do.
the gifts. You have an issue with the gift
The
giving
gifts.
before
That's
every game.
exactly. Yes.
I have no issue with the gift giving. I think more gifts. Every day is Christmas. Every player should get one gift. They do this when in like the World Cup, right before the games in the World Cup, each country kind of brings like a totem or an item and they swap them.
Yeah.
Just every game. I want that every game. We need more Secret Santas in Major League Baseball.
All right. That's the tour conversation for today. Let's move on to another storyline that you might have for us in the NL Central.
All right, so my last storyline is that this division could really suck. And if you look at Fangraphs win projections and average number of wins by division, the NL Central is the lowest at around 78 average wins per team, right behind the AL Central, which is around 79 wins per team. And that's just because there are a few divisions in baseball where there are 3 teams that could be really, really bad. The Cardinals and the Brewers are going to be pretty good, probably in the upper 80 win range, and they'll compete for the division. But the Cubs, Reds, and Pirates, you can envision them winning 65 games, right? So I'm interested to see what the bottom of the division looks like and whether one of those teams is a little bit better than we expect or what the redeemable things within those teams are for the season.
Okay. I like that. I like that a lot. Are there any of those 3 teams that you mentioned, Pirates, Reds, Cubs, that you think, and when I say surprise, I don't want you to, like, I'm not saying, like, could compete for a playoff spot, but are there any of those teams that could finish around 500, maybe slightly better? Is that a chance?
I think the Cubs, for me, if I had to pick one of those 3 teams. They had a lot of surprising breakout players last year after they traded away the core of the 2016 team. Patrick Wisdom was great. Frank Schwindel was really good for them. Rafael Ortega was surprisingly solid. And into that mix, they're going to add Clint Frazier, who's a guy I'm very interested in. Kyle Hendricks is solid. They signed Marcus Stroman. This team is not good yet, that's for sure. They signed Seiya Suzuki. He could be outstanding. I just think the ideal season for them is 83 wins, which gets them on the right path. Maybe they sign a big free agent next year, right? Maybe Carlos Correa opts out.
Maybe
and he
Carlos
goes to the
Correa.
Cubs,
Yeah.
you know? So I think the Cubs of those 3 teams are set up the best. I think the Reds are a catastrophe. I think they had the most disappointing offseason of any team. If they had made a couple of additions, they could have pushed to be in the mix. They were, true value 84 win team last year. They could have gotten in the postseason last year with the expanded field. And instead of taking a step forward, they took a step back. Pirates, just one more inch forward on the rebuilding year. And there's finally starting to see some of those pieces, O'Neal Cruz, Brian Hayes, maybe Mitch Keller, start to break out. And we'll see what the next good Pirates team looks like.
All right, so you mentioned a lot of good names there around the division, a few different teams. The question I want to ask you now is, Who are you most excited about watching in the NL Central this year?
All right, I'll give you 3 names. Number 1 is Willy Adams. Willy Adams, after being traded from Tampa to Milwaukee, was the best hitter in the world for like a month and a half. He got hurt towards the end. Wasn't the same player in October for the Brewers when they got smacked around by the Braves. But Adames, I'm curious whether he is the 160 OPS plus guy, or whether he's kind of further to league average. So he's definitely one guy I'm excited to watch. Former teammate of yours, one of my favorite dudes, high energy, always smiling, good to be around. Next guy is Mitch Keller. He was one of the top prospects, a pitcher for the Pirates, throws incredibly hard. He had an ERA above 6, one of the least lucky pitchers if you look at his expected outs and runs and home runs and things like that. He's been throwing 98, 99 in spring training, so hoping he has what me and Jordan were calling a 2019 Lucas Giolito year. And then the last guy I'm super interested in is actually Tommy Pham, who signed with the Reds a couple of weeks ago. Pham, still hitting the ball incredibly hard, still making really good swing decisions at the plate, just was hurt, had a bad run of form in San Diego, and I'm just interested if he can revive his career. One of the most hard luck players in recent history. The Cardinals had him in the minor leagues for a decade before he made his debut, I think at age 28 or 29. And he was just a free agent for the first time. And if he had gotten up earlier, he would have got more money, been a younger player in free agency. So I'm just hoping that he's able to kind of rejuvenate his career with the playing time he'll receive in Cincinnati, maybe get traded to a contender at the deadline.
Okay, I like that. And one more question for you before you go. I know I read all of you guys' stuff, Jake and Jordan Cespedes. If you guys don't, go check out their stuff. But you really get inside the weeds of baseball. You know all the top prospects. You know all the rosters. You know every single player there is to know. So my question for you here, if there's people listening that are tuning in for baseball, they know the game well, but they don't exactly know all the players, who are 3 guys in this division, rookies, under-the-radar guys, that you need to know their name?
Okay. I'll start off with Hunter Green. He's a rookie. He's about as famous as a prospect can be. He was the number 2 overall pick back in 2017 or 18. 17. And he was a crazy two-way guy, Southern California shortstop, throwing 100 miles an hour. Reds took him 2nd overall, decided to put him on the mound. He blew out, got Tommy John, came back, somehow throwing even harder. He's been outstanding in the minor leagues. He is just pitchery as it gets. He'll instantly be one of the hardest throwing starters in baseball. So he's on Cincy. That team's going to be bad, but he'll be fun to watch. So that's one. Second guy I'm really interested in is Lars Newt Barr. Are you familiar with Lars Newt Barr, Ben?
I am. One of the best names in baseball, but yes, I am familiar with this guy.
Just an athletic bench outfielder for the Cardinals. He's pretty fast. He's got some real power. I think he's going to play a lot of outfield for them, come probably their 4th outfielder off the bench. And is he an all-star? No. Is he a starter? No. Is his name Lars Newt Barr? Yes. And that's something that you can get behind. So watch some Lars Newt Barr this year. And then the last guy is Yoshi Tsutsugo, who the Tampa Bay Rays signed from Japan a couple years ago. Big first base DH type, like big freaking dude. And he was bad for the Rays. Latched on with the Dodgers for a couple weeks and then went to Pittsburgh at the end of the last year and was outstanding for them down the stretch, kind of figured things out in the bigs. I'm going to be really interested to see if he can keep that going, because he can hit. He had some crazy power numbers in Japan, and the Pirates are a good place to try and regain some form.
Okay, I love it. Before I let you go, the big question, Jake, I'm going to put you on the spot. NL Central, who wins it?
Boring answer. I'm going to go with the Pirates. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to go with the Brewers. I think the Brewers pitching is one of the best single units in baseball, let alone, definitely in the division. I believe in St. Louis's offense more than I believe in Milwaukee's. I believe in Milwaukee's hitting more than I believe in St. Louis's pitching. I think the 2 through 5 starters for the Cardinals, super shaky. Jack Flaherty's going to be out for a while. I just think the Brewers know how to win baseball games without scoring a ton of runs. So I'm going to go with Milwaukee.
Perfect. Jake, thank you so much for joining me, man. Big day. NL preview. Tomorrow, we're going to bring you back on for the AL preview and talk a little American League Baseball. But for today, thank you so much for joining me, man. Appreciate it.
A pleasure and a privilege, Ben.
Thanks for watching. If you love flipping bats, swinging 3-0, or just talking ball, join us. Call us at 213-537-9339 with your questions. We have a weekly guest, and we have a lot of fun, so hit that subscribe button.